So I'm out here in Ridgecrest, California. I'm in the middle of nowhere. You got Death Valley somewhere over there, the Yosemites up there in the Sierras. It's just in the middle of nowhere. So since we're riding in the middle of nowhere, I want to check the bike out, and that is a T-Clock. So a T-Clock, it's a full motorcycle check, just making sure everything's good. So if I have a breakdown, I want to find about it now, not somewhere out there in the middle of nowhere. So first up is tires. So we're just going to check for any nails, any excessive wear on the tires. This tire is pretty much brand new. And so there's real deep grooves in it. And so you can see there's a little wear bar in the middle there. If the tread ever gets to that, well then it's pretty much done. But this tire's got lots of life left on it. You can also find the age of your motorcycle tire as well. It's a 4-digit code on the side. So this tire here, you can see that says 1818. That means that tire is made in the 18th week of 2018. It's a brand new tire, you're good to go. The rim looks good. I will check the air as well. So there's your valve stem cap right there. So get a tire pressure gauge on that, or get yourself a tire pressure monitoring system. So roll the bike forward so you can check underneath the tire as well. Just make sure that those tires are good for you to roll on for the day. Next up is C for controls. So you're checking to see that anything your hands and feet touch, that it works. So I got my brake lever here, so I'm just going to move that a little bit and make sure that that works. The throttle, I'll take it and I'm going to twist it back, and I want to make sure it rolls back into position. So as long as it ends up back where it started, that's what you want. Over to the other side, making sure that lever is okay, not going to fall off. Sometimes the bolts in there, they can come loose. As for my feet, down to the shifter here, and you can see that, hey, there's lots of moving parts here. You got this. These all have bolts attached to it, so I want to make sure that they're gonna stay put. They're not backing off, they're not missing, or anything crazy like that. Over to the rear brake. That one's easy. Just want to make sure that's not going to fall off. One more thing about the controls is turning them left and right, just so they can move all the way left and right. When you're installing heated grips or even lights on here, these wires that run up through by the forks, they could restrict the movement of the forks, so make sure your bars can always turn freely if you're adding those mods. Now we're on to L, which is lights. And so the first thing you check is the headlight here. This bike has LED on it, as the high beam, low beam. It doesn't turn on unless the motorcycle started, so that might be like your motorcycle as well. So you have to start it and check to see if the headlight is working. Over to the tail light. Now it's a little tricky to kind of check this while using it, so hopefully you've got long arms. So I just want to make sure that's working, both front brake and rear brake. Let me go over to the signals. Again, both, you got the front, you got the rear, and just make sure you do both sides there as well. Unless, or if you don't have them, you got to use your hand signals. All good. So that is our lights. Looks like all my dash lights work as well. Now we're on to oil. So this is the blood of the motorcycle. You definitely want to make sure you got enough of this and make sure it's topped off. So this is the sight window of the motorcycle. And there's two little lines. There's one line here, and this window. And I want to make sure the oil comes up to that line right there. If it is low, then you got to find the oil, you got to add some. But when we check oil on a motorcycle, you got to make sure it's standing up. So I'm sitting on the ground right now, and I'm going to pull the motorcycle towards me. But it's better if you have someone helping. So Okay, so oil should be flowing in there, and it is not. There we go. Okay, so actually I've got this motorcycle leaning towards me now, and it's showing full, but if I bring it straight, it comes down a bit. So I might want to top that up. I'll probably start it, let it run for a moment, turn it off, and check it again just to see where exactly the oil is. But that oil should be up at the upper mark there. So now it's time for the second C of T-Clock, chassis and chain. So the chassis is your general walk around of the motorcycle. We're looking for missing bolts, damage, leaking fluids, anything that doesn't look right. So I just want to make sure that everything is where it should be. And I don't see any leaking fluids, which is good. So if it's a brown fluid, definitely that's going to be oil, something to be checked out. If it's a green fluid, it's coolant, so definitely check that out. If it's water, I wouldn't worry about that too much, as water is most likely condensation built up in the engine somewhere. But I do see one missing bolt here, so I've got the 4 bolts for the windscreen, and that one is gone. So 3 out of 4 is good enough for me, but that's something to get checked out at some point after the trip. But everything looks good here, so I'm happy there. Now we're on to the chain. So now at the chain, I just want to make sure that it is well lubricated and good for another 1,000 kilometers, 600 miles. And this chain's looking a little dry. Inside there's looking okay, but yeah, I should hit this with some chain lube on today's ride. And then when I get home, give it some good clean with some kerosene. This kerosene is the easiest thing to clean greasy stuff with. Last but not least is the kickstand of the motorcycle. So what I'm going to do is just kick it up, make sure it stays up. That spring that's there can come loose or fall off, and there's also a bolt there too, just in the top right, which can become loose. And there's a switch in behind there. So if the kickstand's down, the bike generally won't let you go anywhere. But if that switch comes loose, the kickstand falls down, your left turns could become exciting. I'll just bring it up. Stays up good, and done. And that's a T-Clock check. It's a good thorough check of your motorcycle. Do it every couple of rides. When you get back from your mechanic, haven't seen it for a while, or it's a bike you're not riding, you're riding it, it's all on you. So give it a good check over to make sure it's safe for you. You want to find out these problems now, here, in somewhere nice and comfortable, like a hotel, where there's service stations, places to eat, stuff like that, rather than the middle of nowhere in Death Valley, or in the middle of the mountains. I'm sure someone will come and save you, but are you really sure? They could think you're some outlaw motorcyclist up to no good. So probably another motorcyclist will stop and see if they can help you. Or get your roadside assistance ready to go. You might need it. So I've got a great ride planned today. Bike checks out. So now it's just up to the open road and all the new adventures that await.